guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, I'm Antoinette, a New Zealander living in Germany. And in this video today, I am going to be talking about the 5 stages of culture shock that you are most likely going to experience if you move to Germany from another country. I'm going to be talking from my own personal experience as a New Zealander moving across the other side of the world to Germany 9 years ago. And I have to say that New Zealand and Germany culturally are completely different. I definitely experienced culture shock when I moved from New Zealand to Germany. And when I talk about culture shock, I don't mean this in a negative way. It's not necessarily a negative thing. Culture shock for me is something that you feel when you are experiencing a culture that is completely different to the culture that you are used to. So even if you're moving from, say, Poland to Germany, you know, Poland and Germany are basically neighbors, but you're still going to experience culture shock. So when I first moved to Germany 9 years ago, YouTube was just kind of starting out. There were no expat YouTubers that I could connect with and relate to. Blogging was kind of big back then, so I found a couple of expat bloggers that I could relate to, but it was really hard for me to find other expats that I could connect with. But over the years, I have been lucky enough to connect with a lot of expats living in Germany, and what I have found is that there is kind of like a pattern in the adjustment period when people move to Germany. It's just so wonderful to know that I am not alone, and all of these feelings and emotions that I've experienced are normal and they are all part of the process. And I think that's why it's so important to be able to connect with other expats, whether it be in real life or, you know, through YouTube or blogs or, you know, internet forums. Okay, so with all that being said, let's get into the first stage of culture shock that you may experience when you move to Germany. I'm a person that has always been fascinated by different countries and cultures. I remember from a very young age, even as young as 6, I was aware of the fact that New Zealand only occupied a teeny tiny part of the world, and that there were so many other countries and cultures out there. And this concept absolutely fascinated me. So I moved to Germany with a very open mind, and I was very excited about the differences. I remember when I first moved to Germany being on an absolute high. It was a dream come true to be able to live in Europe and experience, you know, life in Europe, and I was just taking in everything German. I thought the language was amazing. I loved the food. I just loved everything about Germany. I first came to Germany in December, right before Christmas, and I remember being absolutely gobsmacked, as we say in New Zealand. Basically, I was speechless when I saw how beautiful Germany looked, decorated in all of these like beautiful, you know, Christmas decorations, the lights, you know, the Christmas smells. It was just so different to Christmas in New Zealand, and I wasn't feeling homesick at the time. I was just so excited. And so I was just taking in everything. I wanted to just experience everything German, and just loving the experience. And so this was kind of like the romantic stage of moving to Germany. And honestly, I think this lasted a good 3 months when I was just absolutely in awe of everything. And then came the second stage of culture shock, and this stage kind of creeped up, and it definitely lasted quite a while. I remember starting to feel homesick, and it was horrible. It was the most gut-wrenching feeling ever. And it started out, you know, as I mentioned, very slowly, and then it just kind of turned into this like full-blown homesickness where I just missed everything about New Zealand. I missed the food, I missed the people, I missed the mentality, I missed everything. I think it kind of started when I realized that people in Germany didn't respond to me the way that people in New Zealand did. And so, for example, as I always talk about the fact that in New Zealand we will smile at strangers, and we're very warm and open to strangers. It's very easy to make friends, and people are a lot more friendly in New Zealand. And so in Germany, you know, when I walk down the street and I would smile at somebody and have somebody just not smile back, or you say hello and somebody just blatantly ignores you, I took that very personally, and it was rough. I remember being in a restaurant with Rob, and the waitress was just what I considered to be very, very rude. And she was just very short with us. She just wasn't warm. She wasn't friendly. And I remember saying to Rob, why was that lady so rude? And then Rob said to me, what are you talking about? I don't think that lady was rude. And then it just suddenly hit me that this is what the German mentality is like. And I cannot expect Germans to be like New Zealanders. And I remember my eyes like welling with tears in that restaurant. I was trying so hard to hold the tears back, but I couldn't help it. I was crying. I don't think anyone saw me apart from Rob, because I was trying so hard to keep the tears in, but I was so sad. It was not only that, I remember feeling this overwhelming feeling of guilt that I was in Germany and I could not speak German. And so Germans had to speak English with me in their own country. And I know it's kind of crazy, but this was really, really hard for me. I felt stupid. I felt like I was like uneducated, and I just hated that feeling. And I remember people would ask me, how long have you been in Germany? And I'd say, I've been here for 6 months, and I couldn't speak any German. I could say like a few words, and I hated that feeling. And so instead of having this kind of drive to learn German, I kind of felt like this is impossible. How am I ever going to learn this incredibly difficult language? I could not even copy some of the German words that Rob would say. I felt like I needed an operation on my tongue. I know I talk about this a lot. I felt like physically I was not capable of pronouncing these German words, and for me that caused overwhelming anxiety. And also what I found hard was the fact that I went from being surrounded by family and friends to having no friends. Rob's friends were lovely, absolutely lovely, but they were his friends, you know? I didn't have anyone that I could really connect to apart from Rob, and Rob's family were absolutely wonderful to me, but still I felt like I had no friends, no one I could talk to apart from Rob, and I felt just so, so lonely. And this loneliness and homesickness and worry led me to start to feel a little bit depressed. I remember thinking, what am I doing with my life? I am a qualified secondary school teacher. I have a bachelor's degree in visual arts and design, and I can't do anything here in Germany. I just remember feeling so stuck, so depressed, and so lonely. I had never experienced depression in my life before I moved to Germany, and I just wasn't feeling myself. Rob was just amazing during that time. He was my knight in shining armor. He was my shoulder to cry on. He listened to all of my like worries, and I have no idea how he put up with me because I was just so negative. It was all doom and gloom during that time, and it was just a really tough situation because I knew that if I moved back to New Zealand, Rob couldn't come with me because he wouldn't be allowed a New Zealand visa. He'd already, you know, used his year visa in New Zealand, so it was just a tough situation. And I just loved Rob so much that I was willing to sacrifice feeling so miserable to stay in Germany. So the third stage of culture shock is one of my favorite stages, and this is when it all started to get better. There was a light at the end of the tunnel, and this all started when I found out that I had to go to German language school. So at the time, part of the requirements for me being able to apply for my German residency was that I needed to speak a B1 level of German. And this meant that I had to attend an intensive 6-month-long German integration course. So it wasn't just a language course, it was an integration course. So going to German language school was probably the best thing that I could have done. At the start, it was very difficult. I really did struggle. It wasn't like smooth sailing at the beginning, but after a while, I started to love going to German language school. I remember getting to a point with learning the German language when a light bulb just kind of went off in my brain, and I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I think I'm going to be able to learn this language. It's not in the too hard basket. I think this is doable. I never in my wildest dreams imagined that I would be able to learn the German language, but I was really enjoying learning about the German culture. And not only that, I made friends, and oh my goodness, what a difference this made to my happiness levels. I made amazing expat friends from all around the world, and these were people who were going through exactly the same thing as me, and I just really connected with these people in my language school. Honestly, it was just so amazing meeting all of these people who I could connect with. I finally had friends. We would hang out a lot. We would have little parties. We would go out for dinner. So I suddenly went from feeling so depressed, I was in such a rut, to feeling just wonderful. I was so happy. I had friends. I was starting to learn the German language, and I just started loving life in Germany. I remember that was just such a great time in my life. I started to fall in love with Germany because I was feeling so much happier. I was open to meeting new people. I was learning the German language. I was getting out more. I was experiencing new things. I wasn't hiding in my apartment, and I was just so open to learning about Germany, to trying new foods, to, I don't know, just living life in Germany. And slowly but surely I started learning about the German culture in this integration course, and through that I found like a new appreciation for the German culture, and I started to understand Germans a lot more. I started to understand the German mentality, and I embraced Germany, and it was just a really great time in my life. I remember getting my first job in Germany as a nanny. I was working for a German family looking after little German kids who were adorable, and that also really helped me with my language, with my German language, and that was really, really fun. I got a job as a private English tutor for a politician. I started singing in restaurants. It was awesome. So culture shock stage 4 is a pretty interesting stage. It's actually the stage where I experience reverse culture shock. And reverse culture shock is when you go back to your home country and you feel like you are a foreigner in your own country. And I know this sounds crazy, and it's really hard to explain to anybody who hasn't experienced reverse culture shock, but it is very real, and it is something that I most certainly experienced when I came back to New Zealand. Now, this happened, I think, at about the 3-year mark after I'd lived in Germany for 3 years. So I had been back in that time probably 3 times in 3 years, and I did not experience this reverse culture shock at all the first 2 visits back to New Zealand. It's when I came back to New Zealand for the 3rd time, that's when reverse culture shock hit. And that was when I looked at New Zealand with different eyes, and things started to annoy me a little bit about New Zealand. Things that I never noticed when I was living there. For example, I would be thinking, why are these windows designed like this? Why can't they be designed the German way, you know? And why are these houses so cold? You know, German heating is so much better. Oh my goodness, why are these people wearing bare feet and pajamas in the supermarket? You would never see that in Germany. Oh my goodness, New Zealanders are just so fake. I don't know if they're telling the truth or not. Why can't they just get to the point? So that was reverse culture shock when I had been living in Germany for so long that I became, in a way, a little bit Germanized, and I realized that not everything that they did in New Zealand was the best way of doing things, that there were actually some things that I liked better about Germany. It was a really weird realization for me. I remember going back to Germany after that trip to New Zealand and not feeling as homesick, and so it was good. It was good in a way because I was starting to feel more at home in Germany. Okay, so last is the 5th stage of culture shock, and honestly I don't even think you can call this culture shock, but it definitely is part of the process. This is definitely my favorite stage. I can't even remember when this exactly happened. I don't know the timeline of this all, but I started to feel this kind of like acceptance, and appreciation for both countries. I had the strong love for New Zealand, for my homeland, but also the strong love for Germany. It was kind of like this deep understanding of both countries and both cultures, and I feel like this is something you can only really feel if you have lived in both countries for, you know, a significant amount of time. And this is where I'm at right now, and I have to say that I still feel homesick. I don't think that is ever going to leave me. Sometimes homesickness can be very intense, but it comes in waves, it comes and goes, and that's something that I've learned to accept. But right now, I just feel this sense of peace. I have a deep love for New Zealand, for my homeland. I will always be a New Zealander, always. But I also have this deep love and respect for Germany. So anyway, guys, that was the 5 stages of culture shock. And I know that everyone's experience is going to be different, but I do know from experience that there can be a little bit of a pattern when you move to a new country, and a lot of other expats have experienced these 5 stages of culture shock. The main reason I wanted to make this video is to help out other expats. Maybe you are in culture shock stage number 2, you're not having the best time. I want you to know that you can get through this, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and you are not alone. There are plenty of other expats around the world and we can all get through this together. So anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. I would love you to subscribe to my channel. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, and I will see you again really soon. Bye.